Hi, and welcome to Tips on Imaginative Drawing. This is the second video that I'm doing of this type, just going over somebody's drawing and giving them tips on how to improve. Hi, my name is Luis Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist in the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 20 years now. Today I'm going to be going over Ken's second drawing. He sent me his drawing. He did this off of some reference that he got off of the internet. But the reference that he got from the internet wasn't necessarily like, say, a photograph. It was actually somebody else's underdrawing. And, well, let's take a look at what we're talking about. And I'm going to give Ken some tips. And the idea here is that I'm going to show you what I tell him. And in case you are having the same issues, or you're having the same problems, or you're thinking in the same way, that hopefully you'll be able to get something out of it yourself and improve yourself. So let's begin. So we've got this drawing that Ken sent me, and I told him this, that I thought that his drawing itself, I liked a lot of what he was doing. I think that he is obviously thinking about forms. He's obviously thinking about anatomy. There is structure. He is attempting lighting here. The lighting is consistent. The light is coming from over here in this direction, except for here and here. Most of the lighting is actually going in the correct direction. So I thought that that was really very well done. We've got this graphic shape here, implying that it's going behind, which I think is also very, very good. So I think the head, he's thinking about it being solid and structural. You could actually see that there's corners here. You could see here that he's kind of cornered this stuff off. It's not that he's doing anything particularly wrong. I think he is definitely going in the right direction. There is a lot of solidity. He's thinking about structure and form, but he needs to practice a little bit more. There's a few things that he ought to be more aware of, and I think I can help him with this by giving him some tips. So let's begin first to see what he used as an underdrawing for his drawing. So he told me that this is where he got his drawing. Now, I don't know anything about the artist who created this in their website. However, I would not have used this as an underdrawing or as a guide of any kind. One of the reasons why is because, yes, this is is meant to be graphic, but it's not solid. It's not a solid underdrawing. It's very graphic, and it does a lot of things that I really do not recommend. For example, one of the things about this that I don't recommend is this. Bodies aren't the body parts aren't lumpy bumpy like this. Now you could stylize your cartoons this way if you want, if that's what you are into, but Michelin Man, snowman body parts, I'm sorry, but the human body is not a bunch of Michelin Man. The human body is more watery. It has rhythms that are more like this. And this is a lot more natural in our body parts than Michelin Man body parts. So this is one of the things that I do not like about this type of underdrawing. If anything, I would like to simplify this drawing so that it is actually more tubes, simplified tubes like this and like this. And mostly going into a taper. So body parts that are just as simple as as doing something. It's okay to be graphic, but I don't recommend breaking up a body in this Michelin Man form, because It is inaccurate. It is unnatural. Human bodies don't have these types of bumps. And this is the types of bumps when you see muscles, what you're actually seeing is something more akin to, well, let's say you've got a leg from the side and the muscle goes this way first. We have the knee right here. And this muscle here in the back is more like this. And then this muscle here, the calf muscle, is more like this. So notice that we've got this going this way, and then it goes in and out this way, and then it goes into the foot, and we've got this, but it's not this. That's not how the body breaks down. In the arm, let's say we've got an arm here. So we've got the shoulder muscles here, we've got the bicep here, we've got the tricep, and then we've got the forearm muscles, and even the forearm muscles get broken up here. So notice that the muscles break up, boom, boom, boom. There's a small countering here. But it's overall this way, then this way, then this way. Okay? So this is a much more natural looking arm than if I was just to make a lumpy bump. Michelin Man. So I would not have recommended using this because it lacks the understanding of the wateriness that is the human body, the fluidity and the rhythm that is the human body. Okay, so that is one of the things that I would say. Also, it's okay if it's graphic and it doesn't need to have solidity if you're just making a graphic silhouette. But, however, I would still have, this doesn't describe what is actually going on. There is structure here that's going on. The muscle is coming up down here. The muscle goes around here. The muscle comes in here like this. So there's like a wrapping going on here. There's a wrap. The shoulder muscle comes in and gets interlocked. There's an interlocking. There's interlocking muscles coming together around here. And this underdrawing is not representing it. Okay, so ideally what you want, if you're going to simplify the body like this, is you want to at least give yourself the direction that these limbs, these appendages are going. So if you simplify it in a graphic representation and then you add the construction lines in here, you will see that you could give the body form and direction much easier. So you want the body parts, the muscles in the figure to reinforce these solid, the perspective of the body, so that you don't want that. Ideally, that's what you want. You want to have the body parts, the muscles, all go in those directions to reinforce the volume of a limb, to reinforce the perspective of a limb. The volume of the muscles need to actually be constructed in such a way that they overlap in a natural way, so that it describes the form, it describes the direction of the form, and it gives it volume and creates a sense of space and overlap. So it helps when, if you're going to break down a shape into these graphic forms, to first give yourself the direction of the limbs where, for example, here in this particular drawing, this is where the limb turns. It goes this way at first, and then it comes down this way. This is going down this way, and then it slowly turns into this direction. So, you know, limbs tend to turn in space, and it helps to actually have this going on. This particular underdrawing here does not describe these forms in any actual direction. It puts these pivot points or these joint balls here, and they really don't do anything to help except to say that there's pivot points here. But what they don't do is they don't reinforce the volume of the form. So I would say that if you're going to do something like this, it's better to use reference, preferably an actual photo, and then you can push beyond the photo. Just use the photo as a starting off point. It may also help if you have a mannequin. And by mannequins, I mean something like this, like a little drawing posable figure where you can, it's not anatomically correct in that the muscles aren't going to stretch and pull in the correct way, nor will you see the bones protruding where you need them to protrude. But what the mannequins and drawing figures like these, what they tend to do well is that you could at least break down the form so that you can see the direction to be able to draw things in. So if you're going to draw, if I was to pose this thing in a similar way as the figure in this particular drawing, I mean, I can't really get this thing to be as perfect as this, because it is an exaggerated pose and it's meant to be. But you can see just by this that you could at least get some kind of approximation. Yeah, so then you could at least see what direction these arms and body parts are going if I was to look at this. So things like these tend to help, okay? And also they sometimes help with the lighting when you want to see how light hits an object, even though you probably don't want to use this completely because, you know, people aren't segmented, and you may end up having your figures look like robots if you're not too careful. So but I recommend having some form of reference so that when you do your work, you can at least attempt some form of accuracy. All right, so let's begin with the drawing. Now that I've actually talked about the reference, and if you notice, the problems that I see in this drawing here really come from the flaws in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce this a little bit so that I'm not going off the page too much. I'm going to reduce the opacity here. All right, so let's take a look. I can barely see the drawing here. Okay. All right, so let me go over this again with the solidity in try to get the solidity to work correctly. Now this is definitely a very tricky pose because we're looking down at at the figure, and it's tricky. Look, I'm even using my mannequin here just to have some sense of what's going on here, what we might see, because the figure. Okay, let's take a look here. We got to remember that what this torso is a rib cage. There's a rib cage in here somewhere. However, there's also this bend going on. So I'm going to make this as simple as possible. I'm going to make a ball here, and I'm going to draw through here, put a ball here. This is the bean body that I teach about in the drawing website. As of the time of this recording, there is no torso formula lesson, but in the future there will be, and there will be a link to that lesson in the description of this video, and I talk about the bean. Now I'm using the bean just to create this overlapping shape here. I know that this, we could see the top of the back, and then I'm drawing through here, and it's going in, and we're seeing the front here, but it's getting covered up by the arm. But what we want to do is we want to draw through and make sure that we've got that. I'm also putting a front plane here and a side plane here, kind of making it boxy so that I could understand how these things are turning. I also want to draw this box so that I can know where these limbs are coming from and to what they connect to. And I am going to simplify these limbs for now. Notice I'm also not making him very bulky for now. I will add the muscle later. I just need right now to simplify this enough to wrap my head around the solidity that I want. Here's a foot formula that I tend to use a lot. I haven't explained the feet yet in my drawing website. I'll probably have a lesson to feet as well to link to. Eventually into this video. Okay, so if we have the torso here, there has to be a place for the neck. And see, so the neck needs to at least come from somewhere. And this is not, this is too vague. And if you look at this, it's also not clear what is going on. So we don't want to use that. And because this neck needs to be here, and it probably goes out here somewhere, and because necks aren't that big, and even if they were very long, you wouldn't have a very long neck on a very muscular guy. So what you would want sounds like my baby's crying downstairs. She seems very upset. Okay, so this is what I would say here. This is me breaking up the head like this. Okay. So we've got this turn going here, this turn going here, and then this arm would therefore not be here. I am just putting a ball here because just to simplify this whole entire shoulder girdle going out on here. It really does help if you know a little bit of anatomy before you even start something like this. Just to simplify this, I'm going to draw the arm as a tube just to make it simple for ourselves, not get too crazy. And notice I'm connecting these two rhythmically. That's what I want. I want this rhythm. The reason I'm doing this ball, by the way, is because I've drawn enough figure drawing and I've drawn enough figures in figure drawing that at this point, unlike the last video where I wasn't sure what to do with that shoulder, this I have drawn before, and I have a little bit of muscle memory, or a little bit of memory of what it looks like when a shoulder goes down like that. So I know that this kind of tends to peak out, and then from here I'm just breaking this up really simple, but I did add a little bit of volume, but it is just a watery arm. Notice also that when I didn't draw the arms completely straight, I drew it a little bit. This upper arm has a slight bend here, and same here, and it tapers down to where the hand will eventually be. And I don't necessarily recommend a circle for it, but a circle is a good just shape, or general shape, just to place it. Okay, so now we've got this leg, and what we want is to add a little bit of dimension. So this is a weird position for this leg. I'm not sure if I like it. I think it should probably be a little bit more solid, like he is. He's a little bit more balanced. He should be a tad, have a little bit more balance here, so that he doesn't fall over. His feet should be planted. That was what I was looking. That was what the word I was looking for. He should plant himself down a bit more, so he has more of a solid base. But I kind of don't like this as far as a dynamic pose goes. It's a little too. So this is okay, I think, but I think I'm not sure about this back leg. Again, keeping it simple. Giving it a little bit of gesture. Maybe that's what it was. It's just, it was too far. It's not that it was bad, but maybe it was just too far this way. So let me just. I think that's okay. Square this off a bit more. I'm just going to draw a shape that kind of looks like a fist. Maybe I could create a hand out of it later. Okay, so now this is a flat graphic shape. What we want to do is add a little bit of volume. So we know that this is probably going in this direction in space, and then when it gets here, it goes like that. This, we probably think that it's going in this direction in space, but once it gets down here, it does a drastic change. And we're going down and we're looking at it this way. This, we probably, this is going this way. We know that there's a twist here. This is the top plane here. We're looking down at this. But this is really throwing me off. What's it doing? What do we want it to do? I'm going to look at this mannequin and just to see what seems natural. Yeah, so what we want, I see what, okay. So notice how this is going down in this way and that way, like that. That means that, because we want it to do that, so what we're seeing is that we're looking down at this arm going receding in space, and then this is going away from us still. Yes, it's going away from us. Yes. So we're looking down at this upper arm here, this lower arm here, and then this upper arm, we're also looking down at it. This we're looking down at, this we're looking down at. Notice that this is small just because there's an overlapping shape. These two shapes are overlapping. Also notice that this head here, now I made it boxy. We're seeing the top of the head. We're seeing the front of the head. It's attaching to the neck. But it's also attaching to the bottom of the head. There's this attachment from the chin all the way down to the neck. And this is what we want here. The side of the head going here. Okay, so this is our new lay-in, and it took a long time to solve this problem here. It didn't just happen. We had to really work at it, work out how all these things are going to eventually look. And some of it took some figure drawing knowledge, prior figure drawing knowledge, which is the reason why it's good to be drawing figures from life, because drawing is problem solving, and the more of problem solving repertoire, problem solving files you've got, things that are from experience that you've developed from observation, the better. And all this that I'm doing right here and chiseling out this hand shape is based on years of drawing hand shapes. So this looks like a hand, a lot more like a fist now, even though all I did was draw an exterior shape. You will find that exterior shapes, like silhouettes, are very helpful in designing things like this. So be very clear and pay very close attention to exterior shapes. When you are drawing from life, you will get a library in your head of things that you can draw upon when drawing figures from your head. Okay, so now that I've got this, and notice that now we've got a lot of volume. This is a better starting point to draw a figure from than what we did start from, which is this, which was the original. This is a lot. This is okay for an idea, for a pose, but if you're actually going to draw something on top have something to draw on top of, it's better to have something a lot more solid like this. All right. Now that we've got this, we can start drawing something a lot more solid on top of it. And this is when things get a bit tricky, because this is where you need a little bit more knowledge of anatomy, things like that. Ideally, what you want is to have done enough drawings from life that you have a library of solutions to these problems. But if you don't, you still need and on top of that, you've done enough studying of anatomy from books like the Bridgman books and the other books that I recommended in the last video. There is a list of figure drawing books that are worth buying for figure drawing for artists. That I did a list of it. There was going to be a link to that playlist in the description of this video so that you can see what types of books I recommend when learning to draw from life. Okay, so now that we've got this, what you would want to do is you want to take a sheet of tracing paper, and then now you just draw your final drawing or another version or a muscle version of your drawing on top of this, so that now you have a good foundation to build on. You could also use a light box with a regular piece of paper. That's what I tend to use. I use a light box a lot when drawing analog. When drawing digitally, I don't have to. I could just create layers. But when drawing analog, either you draw on tracing paper or you use a light box. A light box is basically a box that has a light inside of it, and the box has either translucent white plastic or it has an actual blank plastic, blank plastic like this. And you put your drawings on top of here, and the light comes in and it's on the box. This is actually the light box plastic sheet, the plastic layer that I use in my light box. I'm drawing in my light box right now, but I've got a Cintiq inside the light box at the moment. But usually what I do is when I put this on my desk, I turn on the light, it shines through, and it's like drawing on a window. And so what happens is the light shines through, you've got the piece of paper, you put another piece of paper on top of it, and you can basically see right through it and build your drawing on top of the new drawing. It's like using tracing paper. So if you don't have a light box, because they tend to be expensive, just use tracing paper. It's not that big a deal. And if you want the final tracing paper to have like a white background or something like that, then I would just recommend when you make a photocopy, you go to Kinko's or some other place and put a white piece of paper on top of your tracing paper, and then you'll have a final with a white sheet of paper behind it. That's what the Disney guys actually do when they do development stuff. They tend to use tracing paper. One of the reasons tracing paper is really interesting and very good for drawing is because it takes graphite really well, and you can get a lot of really good shading and rendering effects on tracing paper because of how smooth it is. But you got to be really careful because it smudges a lot. All right. So now that we've got this figure, let's add a little bit of muscles on this guy. And obviously you wanted to make this guy be much more of a bruiser. Big guy. So I'm not going to get into too much detail. But maybe this arm can be bigger because we want this guy to be really, really big. So I'm still it's still the same lay-in, but I'm just making him bulkier. And I know that this there's a muscle that comes back from here, the back of this. The muscles that come in here begin at the base of the neck. And they end right here. So let me show you, using Bridgman, what I'm talking about. So very quickly, I'm just going to show you here using Bridgman. This is what I'm talking about. There's a connection right here on this muscle, and it comes down here, and it goes right in there. See? So that's what I'm doing with this part of the body, and it's going to connect into these muscles here. So this connection here is what's going to happen. Now, this is going to be really big. Now, you probably want to create this muscle and make it into the Superman symbol. And there's a rhythm that comes down here, and it connects to this muscle down here. And then there's this rhythm here that connects to this muscle over here. And these two rhythms break up the bicep and the tricep. I got that from the Steve Houston figure drawing book. And then you can break this up like the Bridgman muscle groups. Now notice what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that these shapes are reinforcing the direction of this arm. You want to make sure that the overlapping shapes represent the solidity of this. Let's make the arm even bigger here. Also, again, we're trying to avoid this lumpy bump, and right now this Michelin Man, and it looks like I am doing it right now, so I'm trying to avoid that because it doesn't look natural. Now we've got this muscle here. Of the neck. And that muscle here, let's take a look at Bridgman. Muscle starts right here, like under the ear. We have the ear right here. There's a diamond shape in the back here. Just draw the elbow. Let's see if we can't get that rhythm going here. Okay to leave these a little bit blocky because this is all bone back here. Right here is all bone. We haven't spoken about the face here. And the face is going to be very, very complicated as well. But one problem at a time. Everything in drawing is a problem. Let's just add a little bit of a diamond shape here because that's really what the knee is anyway. It's a bit of a diamond. Then we start working on the muscles here. Now I'm drawing these muscles from memory. But the idea here is to make sure that these muscles here reinforce this perspective. And again, this here is not a lumpy bump. Doesn't do this. The calves do this. Then we got the feet. And even the ankles do this. So we want this, and then this will be smaller, and this will be wider. But we still want him to be big. Now this is going this way. This is what this knee is doing. That's its glutes right here. This muscle mass is really too, it's like the bicep of the foot. And again, these shapes ought to reinforce the direction. All these muscles ought to reinforce the direction of this tube. We want to make sure that they describe the direction of the leg in space. Yeah, this is totally a cheat here with this hand. Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm not gonna really go into this hand. I think I'm just gonna cheat and leave this as this. Gonna cheat and leave this as a silhouetted shape. And I am off the feet. Okay, so I created this boot. Here's the ankle. It's like a boot shape that I like to use. You could put like toes on this now, but I'm assuming that this guy's wearing boots, so I'm not gonna give him toes. It doesn't quite work as well looking at this side, because what I tend to do is I add this thing here, and then I give the foot kind of like a heel, like as if it's a boot. But when you're looking at it from the other side, that heel doesn't. It's more solid, and it's trickier to draw this side for me, at least. I haven't quite worked out a good formula for the foot being seen from this side. All these muscles, again, a lot of these I'm using for the sake of speed. I'm just going off memory. And then if you're going to draw the face, that's a whole nother can of worms with the face. Notice how long it's already just taking me just to do this much. But then there's all these structures on the face. Some of what I'm doing is Bridgman based. Some of it is not. Let me see what you drew here. Okay. So here's the brows. The eyes would have to go in here. You've got the mouth. Got these muscles coming around here, so there's all these rhythms going in here too. You've got the chin shape rhythms here. This is a whole study in and of itself. Is just heads. But it does help if you have like a mannequin and you're looking down and you're trying to figure out what you want to see, and you're looking at your reference, and so it does help if you have something like this. I'll put a link to a a place where you could probably buy something like this, but they're kind of pricey, so just be aware. This is a simple head. Let me. So I think for now that this is enough tips to help you with the drawing, to improve your drawing. Just go over a little bit of it again. So what I would recommend if you're drawing something, you've got this as reference. First of all, I would say that you may want to get better reference, something that is more solid. This is an okay drawing to get an inspiration for the type of pose you would want, but really I wouldn't use it as your underdrawing because it lacks structure and it lacks good design, a good design foundation. As I've explained before, what you want is none of this lumpy bump. You want something that is much more refined and designed than the lumpy bump. And then once you're getting into drawing something like this, you want to make sure that you've got forms going in the direction, simplification. You understand where the direction of the forms are going. It's okay to draw more than one version and then draw on top of it and then draw on top of that and then draw on top of that until you get what you want. So this is the pose you picked is very, very tricky in that it requires an overlap of body parts. So you've got this coming over on top of this, going on top of this, and then where is this arm and how does it connect? Where does it connect? Draw through your figure so that you can see where things connect. Make sure that you know exactly what direction all these limbs are going to. If you need to find reference, use a mannequin, use yourself, have somebody pose for you, but what you want is you want to be able to understand the pose rather than just simply draw whatever. And then once you've got this solid drawn down, then you can draw on top of it again with tracing paper or something else. It doesn't have to be right the first time. You can build your drawing, and you could build your drawing from that to, and then you on top of that add more detail, more poses. And when you're drawing the detail of your figure, make sure that the muscles and the figure that you're drawing, everything that is part of this figure is reinforcing the perspective that you established with your underdrawing. So this underdrawing that you've got here needs to be reinforced with the details. The details must not counteract the direction that you've established on your underdrawing, because that way, that's what adds form, that's what adds volume. And make sure that you design the muscles in such a way that they're organic and watery, not Michelin, but you want the organic, watery anatomy rhythms to exist, so that when you draw your figure, it feels more natural, it feels organic, it feels solid. So now we've got this figure. You saw me draw it. If you need to understand anatomy and figures and muscles and what's going on and how they work, I recommend The books that I recommend in my figure drawing book list, the link is in the description of this video. I also recommend the Bridgman book. I recommend you copy Bridgman's drawings just so that you start getting a shorthand of what it feels like to draw these things. It'll immediately give you that kind of calligraphy right away, that shorthand right away. It'll help a lot. I don't know if that's right. I think that's how it works. I think it's like this. Okay, so I hope this video has helped. This is usually the way I approach things when I'm drawing these types of figures. I draw through, then I erase just to make it look a little bit better there. So, but just draw through your figure, study anatomy, go to figure drawing, find mannequins, find reference, whatever it takes for you to learn and understand what you're drawing. No matter how long you're doing it, you're going to come up with things that you don't know. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I still need to always look up reference, and I got to make sure that everything I'm doing is solid. The more you do this sort of thing, the better you get at it, because you've solved the problem before. But it's not going to happen right away because you haven't solved almost any of the problems, and that's part of that's a problem in and of itself, is not having solved enough problems. So that's why people say draw, 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 draw every day, draw when you can, no matter what, and etc., etc. One of the reasons they say that you ought to draw as often as possible is because the more you draw, the more problem solving you do. The more problem solving you do, the faster you are at drawing, because you've solved problems before. So you want to be put in situations where you're constantly solving problems so that you can get better, so that the knowledge is there, that you've already solved that problem before, and you could just build on that sort of stuff. All right, so I hope this has been helpful. If you found this video valuable, I would like to encourage you to return value for value by becoming one of my patrons over on Patreon. Not only will you encourage me to continue making informative videos that are useful to you, but you get extra perks too. For only a small investment of $1 a month, you can get all new videos I create months before anyone else gets to see it. Also, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer as a patron, you get priority and I answer your questions first. On top of that, when you're a patron at any level, you become part of a raffle where I send original art via mail to the winner of that month. The higher your tier, the better your opportunity to win. Higher tier patrons also get access to any art I do in high-res JPEGs, and also full access to PSD files to any work I do, including the PSD files of these videos. Currently, there's a huge backlog of downloadable files you can get, so right away you're going to get quite a lot of bang for your buck. And the more patrons I get, the better these videos will get. The more content I can produce. In other words, the more you benefit. Please consider becoming a patron. Thanks. The link to my Patreon is on the screen and in the description of this video. And I will see you next time. All right, bye.